Gold jumped, the dollar slipped. Dow futures today flickered red and green, and in the middle of it all, one question took over every feed. Can a president really fire a Federal Reserve governor? Late Monday, President Donald Trump said he was firing Fed Governor Lisa Cook, citing mortgage fraud allegations. Cook pushed back, saying no cause exists under the law and that the president has no authority to remove her. Markets and lawyers lit up at once. This isn't just Beltway drama, it's a stress test of the Fed's independence, and it could touch everything from the US dollar to your mortgage. Before we get to what happens next, let's pin down the facts of what Trump did and what Cook said in response. What happened exactly? President Trump posted a letter saying he was removing Lisa Cook from the Fed's Board of Governors, effective immediately, pointing to alleged mortgage improprieties. It's an unprecedented move in modern Fed history. Cook rejected it, signaling a legal fight over whether the White House can push out a sitting Fed governor mid-term. Open loop. But who is Lisa Cook, and why does this clash matter far beyond Washington? Who is Lisa Cook? Lisa D. Cook is a macroeconomist, a former White House advisor, and the first black woman to serve on the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors. She was appointed to a 14-year term designed to outlast any single presidency, a feature meant to shield the Fed from political swings. Her resume includes research on growth, finance, and barriers to innovation, and she has been a consistent vote on policy while the Fed wrestled with inflation. If the term is built to be shielded from politics, what gives the president any opening at all? The allegation behind the firing. The spark came from Bill Pulte, the Trump-appointed head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Pulte publicly claimed that Cook improperly claimed 2 homes as primary residences to obtain better mortgage terms and said he had referred the matter to the Justice Department. Trump cited those allegations as his cause to remove Cook. Cook denies wrongdoing. Whether the claim amounts to mortgage fraud and whether it's proven will matter in court and in the court of public opinion. Even if the allegation were true, can a president unilaterally fire a Fed governor for it? Can a president fire a Fed governor? Here's the crux. Fed governors have long terms and are protected from at-will removal. The Federal Reserve Act allows removal for cause, but that phrase is murky without a court ruling spelling it out. Legal analysts note that firing a governor has no modern precedent, and Cook says there is no lawful cause and no presidential authority to oust her. Expect a fast legal volley, likely an injunction request from Cook's side, testing the limits of for cause and the Constitution's separation of powers. Major outlets and legal scholars are already flagging the threat to Fed independence if presidents can remake the board on the fly. While lawyers prepare briefs, markets have their own way of voting, in prices. What markets did: dollar, gold, futures. Traders hate uncertainty around the Fed. After Trump's move, gold rose as a classic hedge, while the US dollar softened and short-term yields dipped, signals that investors were gaming out a more politicized, possibly more dovish Fed. Dow futures today wobbled as headlines hit, with live blogs tracking whether equities would fade or shrug. The immediate takeaway: investors see higher political risk around central bank policy and are hedging accordingly. Markets react in minutes, but your mortgage and bank rates move on the Fed's next steps. So what could this mean for loans in the economy?
Why this matters to your mortgage, bank, and job. When people Googled Lisa Cook mortgage, they weren't just chasing the allegation, they were worried about their own loans. If the firing holds and Trump installs a loyalist, the administration could gain extra sway over rates and regulation. A more compliant board might push for faster rate cuts, lowering some borrowing costs in the short run, but at the possible cost of inflation credibility. Banks live and die by what the Fed signals on capital, liquidity, and stress tests. Mixed signals or legal chaos can make banks more cautious, which can tighten credit. For households, mortgage rates ultimately track longer-term yields, plus expectations for inflation and Fed policy. If investors think the Fed is being politically steered, they may demand a higher risk premium, blunting any push for cheaper mortgages. In short, legal drama today can translate into choppy borrowing costs tomorrow. Investors' quick pivot to gold shows that concern. All of that rests on the answer to one looming question: what happens next to Governor Cook and the broader Fed governors lineup? What happens next, and why Fed independence is trending? Cook's term runs to 2038. She has signaled she won't leave, setting up a legal showdown that could define how for cause applies to Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook and, by extension, every Fed governor who follows. If a court blocks the firing, the Fed's independence score goes up, and markets may calm. If a court allows it, the White House could gain another seat to reshape the board, tipping the balance on rate policy, supervision of banks, and crisis response. That's why phrases like Trump fires Lisa Cook, Trump fires, Lisa Cook fired, and who is Lisa Cook all spiked together. This isn't a single-person story, it's about the operating system of American money. But there's one more layer: how politics, policy, and perception collide when the central bank becomes the headline. Politics versus policy versus perception. For decades, the Fed guarded a simple bargain. Elected officials set goals. The Fed picked the tactics. That firewall helped the US dollar hold its safe haven status. The Trump fires Lisa Cook episode blurs that line. Even talk of presidents picking off sitting governors can push savers toward gold and introduce a politics premium into interest rates. Meanwhile, everyday searches, Dow Futures Today, Lisa Cook Federal Reserve, Governor Cook, and even AP News show how fast this story jumped from X to trading screens to dinner tables. However the courts rule, the Fed's credibility is now part of the 2025 macro story, right alongside jobs, inflation, and global growth. So what should viewers watch for in the next 72 hours? The near-term checklist. 1. Legal filings from Cook's counsel. She has retained high-profile representation seeking to block removal. 2. Any clarifying statement from the Fed or Chair Jerome Powell on governance and quorum. 3. White House follow-through. Does the administration attempt to seat a replacement or pressure other Fed governors? 4. Markets. Gold and the dollar as quick tells, bank stocks, and the front end of the yield curve as policy tells. 5. Congressional reaction. Both parties know that codifying or curbing removal power would echo for decades. At face value, this is a fight over one governor. In reality, it's a referendum on whether the Federal Reserve can stay independent when politics heats up. Lisa Cook says she's not going anywhere. The White House says it has cause. Courts will decide the law. Markets will decide the price, and the rest of us will feel it in the US dollar, in gold, and, sooner or later, in the rate on a mortgage.